Welcome back to my channel, everyone. My name is Sarah Willoughby. I'm the author of He's Making Diamonds and the host of the Diamonds Conference. And I'm here with Esther Smith. She is the author of the Whole Life book, as well as two different books about chronic pain and faith. Writing is hard, and chronic illness is hard. And when you put them together, it can feel impossible. But Esther and I are living proof that it's not. So, hi, Esther. You want to tell us about your books a little bit?
Sure, yes. Yes, my name is Esther, and I am a counselor, a licensed counselor, and also a writer. As Sarah said, I have several chronic illnesses, deal with chronic pain, and that has been the topic of some of my writing. So, this is one of the books that I've written. It is a 31-day devotional for people who live with chronic illness walking by faith. And this most recent book that I co authored with my friend Eliza Huey is called The Whole Life. And it is about biblical self care and what it looks like to take care of ourselves, our whole lives, all parts of ourselves in different areas. And it's divided up into different sections that you can dive into really deeply over the course of a year. So these are the two last projects that I have worked on and what I have out there right now.
Read them, guys. I got to advance read the Whole Life book. It's really good. It's for everyone, not just chronic illness related or anything like that. Um,
Yes, yeah. The first one definitely for people specifically with chronic illness, but the whole life is for any Christian who is feeling burned out or struggling to find balance, or who just for whatever reason feels like they need to focus in on self-care for a extended period of time, which is most people, I think.
yeah, it's human. It's definitely going to be some Christmas gifts I'm getting for people this year because it was really impactful for me. Yeah. And it's published. I'm excited to get to talk about it with. I've had a few friends who are waiting anxiously for the publication.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, what got you started writing?
Yes. So actually, it was dealing with a number of physical health challenges that got me started writing. So years and years ago, it probably would have been maybe 8 years ago when I was dealing with pretty significant chronic back pain, that I just started writing out my thoughts to process what I was going through. So it started out in some ways as a personal journal, and then it turned into a blog, which turned into some self published books, which turned into actually working with a publisher. But definitely it was processing my own story and using writing as a means to understand what I was going through and connect with other people who were going through the same thing. So I really am not sure if I would have got into writing if it had not been for struggling in that area. And it was just a really helpful tool for me, and led to some really great things with these books that I've been able to write.
Yeah. So, how I imagine that sharing, I know from myself, sharing my personal story, talking about the hard things and going on in my life is challenging to navigate sometimes. What are like some of the challenges that you faced in that, and also some of the benefits that you've gotten to have from writing about those hard topics?
Yeah, it definitely is a challenge and something that has changed for me over the years how I approach it. So when I first started writing, I actually had a blog that was anonymous, and I was pretty open about just expressing what I was going through because I needed that. It was for me. When I first started writing, it was for me. And then it kind of turned into over time being for other people because I saw that it was helpful for other people when I was vulnerable about what I was going through. And so at some point, I think it was when I self published my first book, I decided, you know what, if I'm going to self publish this, I'm going to have to go public with my blog. And I did. And that was definitely a very vulnerable choice. For me, it was very difficult in a lot of ways to kind of put that out there and not know who that I knew was reading what I had written. And like I said, that's changed over the years for me, especially as I have moved forward in my work as a counselor. I've just become more mindful about what I'm willing to share about online and how I share about things online. So I believe that I am still very open. I'm very open about my struggles. I'm open about the fact that I struggle with chronic pain and chronic illness, but I'm not as much sharing the day to day stuff, the day to day nitty gritty details as much anymore of what it's like to go through, different health challenges. And I would say I save some of that for my book. I'm just more um, mindful, more careful about how I share about some of those things. And that's just where I am right now. I see other people very tastefully and helpfully share some of their personal hard stuff on a daily basis. And I think that that's great. And some people do that very well. And I still want to be open because I think that's really helpful for people to know that they're not alone and to know that even as I'm in this role of a counselor and helping people, that does not mean I have it all together. It does not mean that I do not struggle. So I want to be honest, but I want to be careful about how I share things. And I would say that's where I am right now.
Hmm. Practically, are there any like specific limits or boundaries that you have for yourself in being careful about what you share?
I mean, it's not something that I have like specific rules that, I share this or I don't share that. It's just more that I think it's more for my own well-being
Hmm.
and just keeping parts of my life private, that I have decided to pull back. So yeah, there's not any specific things. Like I like to share little details of my life about, my dogs and what I'm cooking and fun projects that I'm doing and stuff like that. So I do like to share daily stuff like that. And I like to share the big picture stuff of chronic pain and illness. But for whatever reason, for me, it has just been like pulling back from sharing the day-to-day nitty-gritty details of this is what life with chronic illness is like. And I am so thankful that there are some people out there who do that. So me saying that I don't do that is not a discouragement to other people who might want to, but I have set that, I've decided to pull back from that myself, just because going back to my work as a counselor, it has just felt like better to kind of set that boundary as I kind of move forward in that work.
Yeah. It's cool to hear how each person handles it differently. And for anyone watching, I feel like in figuring out what to share and what not to share, it is a very personal choice and what you can handle and what's best for you as a
Hmm.
person. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I have one more question. And so you co-wrote the whole life book with Eliza. How did you guys navigate that? As for me, my health affects my ability to keep up with deadlines and write in a coherent, logical way. And how did you two navigate that working together?
Yeah. So co-writing The Whole Life was a really great experience. And if you, I mean, I know the people watching this, you're writers. So my advice before I kind of jump into what it was like, my advice for if you do co-write a book is to pick the right person. And Eliza Huey, who I wrote it with, she was the right person to write it with. We worked really well together. And it was definitely an intense project. It's a project where, like, if you're writing with somebody else, you both really care a lot about what you're writing about, and so it leads to a lot of really good conversations and spending so much time together piecing through things. So pick the right person, I will say, because it would be challenging. It would be very challenging to write it with somebody if you're not working well together or not, connecting as you're working. So how we handled it was we did a lot of, especially at the beginning, we did a lot of work separately. So the whole life is divided up into 52 short chapters. And so maybe it would have been different if it wasn't divided that way, but we divided up those 52 short chapters so that she took some and I took some. And so then after that, we came together and we would have this Google document pulled up and have each other up there on FaceTime or Zoom or something like that and be working on the document together. And there were some really very long days where we were editing and working for very long periods of time. And I think that the way we navigated that is just being open about what we needed, communicating, when we needed to stop and take a break. And, we were writing a book on self care. So we tried to be very mindful that that actually be a part of our process. We didn't do super great at sometimes, but we tried to be mindful and take those breaks. And she was really great in terms of if I needed a break or, if for whatever reason we needed to change a deadline or something like that. She was just very flexible about that and understanding. So, yeah, we figured it out. And so I think it was a combination of, yeah, there were definitely times when I had to push through, or like we both had to push through. But at the same time, there was flexibility and, grace for making sure everything got done. Yes, there were some deadlines that had to be met, but there was also flexibility in how we met them. So,
Yeah. Well, that's really good. I'm glad to hear that. And yeah, I think the right person is crucial.
yes, it really very much is. It's very intense, a very intense like writing process in general, writing a book. And then if you're doing it with somebody else, there's just so much communication and collaboration in doing that. And the book is, I believe, a better book because we wrote it together and came from these different perspectives of, me, especially coming from that perspective of somebody who does deal with physical limitations, and she, coming with her own story that's different than mine, just gave this multitude of perspectives that I think is made it better and helpful to a wider range of people, I think.
Mhm. Well, that's really cool. So yeah, guys, make sure that you grab Esther's books. They're good. They're she's a talented writer and shares a lot of wisdom. And thank you so much for your time today, Esther. If
Yeah.
you want to like, subscribe, comment down below who else you would like me to interview. We will see you in the next video.